Cycling the Carretera Austral, Episode 38, Accommodation on the Carretera Austral. We've reached the end of this journey. Countless stories, landscapes that left you breathless, and legs that grew stronger with each kilometer. But before we close this adventure, let's talk about something essential.
Where are you going to sleep each night along the Carretera Austral?
From Puerto Varas to Coyhaique, accommodation availability is quite good. You'll find campsites, hostels, cabins, and even nice hotels in almost every stop. In places like Cochamó, Hornopirén, Chaitén, La Junta, Puyuhuapi, or Coyhaique, there's a wide variety, and while summer brings more demand, you generally won't struggle to find a place to stay, especially if you book a couple of days in advance.
Can you tell us about the costs?
Okay, campsites cost between 5,000 and 10,000 Chilean pesos per person. Some are very basic, while others have hot showers, communal areas, and even charging points. Hostels or family-run guest houses are a great choice for those who want a warm bed and a shower without spending too much. Prices range from 15,000 to 30,000 Chilean pesos per person. Cabins and hotels offer more comfort, especially if you're traveling with a partner or group. Prices range from 40,000 to 80,000 Chilean pesos per night, depending on the location and season.
But once you leave Coyhaique heading south, things change. The Carretera Austral becomes more remote, wilder, and lonelier. Towns are smaller, distances are longer, and accommodation options are much fewer.
Yes, there are places to stay, but not in every stretch. In towns like Puerto Tranquilo, Cochrane, or Caleta Tortel, you'll find cabins or hostels, though it's best to reserve in advance, but in between, camping is often the only option.
Those unplanned moments often become the highlights of any journey, don't they?
Exactly. And you know what's wild? Everything changes dramatically once you pass Coyhaique. The towns shrink, the distances stretch, and suddenly that tent you weren't sure about packing becomes your most valuable possession.
So, what's the strategy for handling those more remote southern stretches?
Well, between Coyhaique and Villa O'Higgins, you're looking at much more limited infrastructure. You might find basic accommodation in places like Puerto Tranquilo, but here's the key. You need to book well in advance, especially during summer, when temperatures hover around a perfect 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit.
That must require some serious planning. How do people typically manage their supplies?
That's where services like backpack delivery with Austral bikes become absolute lifesavers. You can send your heavy gear ahead to Villa O'Higgins, keeping just the essentials on your bike. But here's what's really interesting. Those nights spent camping in the wild often become the most profound part of the journey.
You know, I've heard stories about the stars in Patagonia being absolutely incredible.
Oh my goodness, yes! Imagine setting up your tent beside a pristine lake. With the Southern Cross constellation so clear, you feel like you could reach out and touch it. The silence is almost tangible, broken only by the occasional call of an Andean condor.
What about seasonal variations? How do they affect accommodation options?
Well, the summer months, December through February, see the highest demand, with temperatures reaching up to 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. During this peak season, even basic accommodations in stops like Puyuhuapi can fill up weeks in advance. Winter brings its own challenges, with many places either closed or operating at reduced capacity.
So, timing really makes all the difference?
The shoulder seasons, like March to April or October to November, often offer the best balance. You get more accommodation options, lower prices, and fewer fellow travelers, though you need to be prepared for those infamous Patagonian winds that can gust up to 100 kilometers per hour.
What's been the most surprising thing you've learned about accommodation along this route?
You know what's fascinating? The way the accommodation situation mirrors the journey itself. You start with all these comfortable options in the north, which gives you time to build up your confidence. Then, as you move south, things become more basic, more challenging, but also more rewarding.
That gradual progression must help people adapt to the increasingly remote conditions.
Exactly right. By the time you reach those isolated stretches, you've developed both the physical endurance and the mental resilience needed. Plus, and this is crucial, you've learned to appreciate both the simple pleasure of a wild camping spot and the luxury of a proper bed when you can find one.
Okay, let's make a brief summary.
From Puerto Varas to Coyhaique, plenty of options, good variety of accommodations. From Coyhaique to Villa O'Higgins, less availability, more camping, more adventure. Bring your tent, extra food, and get ready to experience true Patagonia.
So, what's your final advice for someone planning this journey?
Well, first, definitely bring that tent, even if you're planning to use hostels most of the time. Second, invest in good camping gear. Temperatures can drop to near freezing even in summer. And finally, remember that some of the best experiences come when plans fall apart and you find yourself sharing stories with local shepherds around a campfire.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you've made it this far, you're now part of the spirit of the Carretera Austral.
And as we say at Austral Bikes, ride slow, breathe deeply, and don't forget to enjoy the view. See you on the road.